Great. Well, it's been wonderful doing this series. We have one more morning, tomorrow morning at 6:30. For those that have attended live, for those that have enjoyed it at a different time of day, it's been really awesome to be with you all. And I thank you for all your feedback and personal sharing that's been a part of this series. So today, I dedicate the time with you to Jesus. And I was sitting with how to go forward, in what way. Jesus is such a rich part of my life, of my formation, of my happiness, of my process. And I am aware, because of my ministry and service and where it takes me throughout the country and the world, that the very word itself is laden. Right? There's big yeses, there's big no's, there's everywhere in between. There's wrestling with all sorts of aspects. And this has happened ever since the record of Jesus being alive. In fact, even though we get something of a dedicated storyline from the time after he was crucified onward to the Christian followers, that we get this compact sense that it moved from one event to another. But in actuality, even right in the beginning, well, when Jesus was still alive, we're going to go back to that, but even right in the beginning of after he ascended, was no longer with everyone, you have an incredible amount of uncertainty and division when it comes to Jesus. And this has happened with any individual in form that has been a transmitter of eternal truth and love. So the divisiveness, the confusion, the oppression, the acceptance, all of these things have existed for every mystic that we had as a part of this series so far, and everyone that might be claimed something of a mystic. That being said, we don't have movements like we have had come about with such magnitude and all-reaching influence as you do, as when it comes to this person, this divine essence of Jesus. And in light of that, and out of sensitivity for the many, many individual paths that are meant to be taken in relation to Jesus, out of sensitivity for that, I'd like to invite you for a moment to close your eyes and to recall an experience that you had at any time in your life, in any way, shape, or form, that somehow had a fragrance of Jesus. It could have been when you heard one line that touched your heart, and maybe you didn't have an experience of Jesus being before you, but there was maybe a line attributed to what Jesus said, and it struck your heart. Maybe it is an experience with a picture or an icon. Maybe it's an experience during a ritual. Maybe it's an experience in what you consider to be a living relationship with Jesus. Maybe it's an experience that's somehow oriented within the Christian sphere. So let's just take a little bit of time to give some space for that. And holding that experience. You can revisit it later if you want to spend more time with it. What would it be like to be a child freely open to the experience of Jesus, untainted by the division in the world around this movement? What would it be like? Jesus himself is said to have said, "Let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom is theirs." What would that be like? And can it not be that in this very moment we can make a choice to open ourselves to an experience of Jesus, that while we may carry all these different layers of things, whether it be dogma, whether it be whatever it may be, the collective consciousness, all that can be there in the field. We don't have to work that all out because it's a mess. But we can choose to say, what would it be like to be a child and open to the experience of you, Jesus? It's one of the reasons that I think the Western culture has been so open to traditions that come from other countries. There's a hunger for ritual, there's a hunger for connection, there's a hunger for bhakti, for devotion, there's a hunger for meaning. There's so much of a hunger in the human nature. And when we enter into an environment that's unfamiliar to us, we are automatically like children, because children are experiencing newness all the time. You can think back to when you were a child and were experiencing the newness of going to kindergarten for the first time, the newness of getting your first pair of shoes, the newness of having ice cream for the first time. There was so much new. And I believe that that's where we have the opportunity to open afresh to the experience of Jesus. What would it be like? See if you can imagine yourself at a certain innocent age when you were open to the world. And we'll let go of trauma, just all that, that's all there. Humanity's a mess, history's a mess, we'll let that all go. But imagine being an innocent child who was old enough that you had curiosity active, but young enough that things felt new. What would it be like if an adult sat before you and had a presence of kindness and love and said to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you're going to be able to make that mountain move? Most children would be like, wow, wow. Or what if the kind adult who stood before you, what if that kind adult said to you, I am with you always? And you could feel them. You could feel it because you were innocent. I am with you always. And what if this adult went further and said, you see me doing all of this healing. You can do works even greater than mine. And what if this adult who sat before you was just coming out of a crowd, and you saw that as he came out of the crowd, a woman who was suffering touched his cloak and was healed, and you noticed it? or you walked with him to the house of a friend who had just died, a little girl, and her father's there weeping, and you see this adult heal that child. What if all of these words and these parables were coming to you through someone, and you had the innocence to just interface with it and him, period. No other intermediaries, no other oppression through hierarchy and churches and human weakness and betrayals and squashing of spirit. No one saying it's this way or no way, but just the presence. And what if you were there in innocence and you were worried? You were worried. So if you're an innocent 7 or 8-year-old, you might be worried about what one of your friends thinks of you at school, or did you do okay on your project for the teacher, or did your mom look at you with love or not? You might be worried about things. And what if that adult who really emanates kindness and love and peace said to you, do you see how the birds of the air are cared for? I tell you this, God has counted every hair on your head. You don't need to be worried. And see the lilies in the field. They neither toil nor spin. You are cared for as they are. You don't have to worry. What if? What if? What if you saw this adult that was so kind and so loving be filled with a righteous anger and flip over people selling things in the temple at exorbitant prices, extorting people. And you got to experience a holiness that shows up as protection and a freedom that could affirm goodness and call out what's falling short of goodness. What if, as the innocent one, you could experience in this individual what seems to show forth in the stories, that this person looked into the soul of the one before him. And he spoke not with the protocols, but he spoke authentically to the true need that was there, to the true question that was there, to the true desire that was there, to the true confusion that was there. Just like the woman at the well, or Nicodemus coming in the night, and so many others that weren't able to get really clear on what was really happening inside. But he knew, and he could say, oh, you're really thirsty for this. Oh, it's really about being born again. You could hear the desire of the soul. And what if in this individual looked into you and said, you and I are similar. The Father and I are one, the Mother and I are one, and you and I are similar. I am the way, be the way. I am the truth, be the truth. You are called to do even greater things than what I do. Why? Why? Because he's speaking from the essence of what union with the divine, of what the full embodiment of God looks like and sounds like. But that's me placing my interpretation on it. So you can even take that away, because this is really between you and Jesus. This isn't about me saying words that sound really lovely and poetic that are true for me. They provide a safe place for you to explore this. You to explore this. It could be very easy for this session to be all about the teachings of Jesus, because there's a universality. And you can look at any faith tradition and you can see maybe not the same parables, some of the same, but maybe not the same parables, but you'll see the same teachings, the same essential truths coming through. Love the divine with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. You'll come across many light-filled sayings in every tradition. So this session isn't about that. It's not about hearing words that are wise and assenting to them because they are true to you, or they're coming from someone you trust, like Jesus. It's about something more dynamic. It's about you in relationship to this being. And heeding, if there's many calls that you can get in the inspired Christian text, but one of them that is not always mentioned is the call to grow in simplicity so that you stay true to the divine nature of your being. So make this just about you and Jesus. Just you and Jesus. And what would it be like then? What would it be like if each one of us and humanity could then sing songs of praise that are Christian charismatic songs the way we're growing accustomed to singing chants and mantras and kirtans? I go to kirtan at least once a week. I love it. It's so devotional. And I'm with people of wide age range, all opening themselves to an experience of the divine. And they're doing it through sacred chant. And they're chanting words that I bet they don't necessarily believe. I bet that they may not think that Krishna is God. I bet that they might not have a personal relationship with Lakshmi. They may, but they may not. So what's allowing then that movement into bliss happen? Because they're coming with innocence, opening themselves to an experience of the divine in the ritual itself by using their voices and their bodies and their instruments and their intentions. And miracles are happening. What would it be like if we individually and collectively could open up with that same innocence and sing these words? Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. There is something about that name. Master, Savior, Jesus, like a flower after the rain. Jesus, 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 let all heaven and earth proclaim. Kings and kingdoms will all pass away, but there's something about that name. To have the innocence to come into that song without getting caught on the word king or savior, but just interface with the essential qualities. We have an opportunity, because we're part of this Essence Tribe. We have the opportunity to make a choice to open up to our own individual, unique experience between us and this one that is called Jesus. And to ask, how can I have a further experience that sets aside and strips me of all the complicatedness and messiness that Christianity is? And continues to report. Not 100%, right? We have many communities that are vibrant just about the experience. By and large, most of the people I serve are struggling to heal a heart that has been deeply hurt through some aspect that came to them through this faith tradition. So we step back, we step back, we step back. So I want to end this time and open it to a small share. By really allowing prayer. So I'm going to lead, and I invite you, staying on mute, to overlap with me or within it offer your own prayer as well. And together we close our eyes. Jesus, who are you? Who are you to me? Who are you as an instrument of God's love in the world? What is this compassion that we find through you? I pray for healing, past, present, and future, to all the ways that the experience of you has been misused, unconsciously formed into hurtful movements, for all the ways that ignorance has moved from the innocent experience of you to the divisiveness of power struggles and pain and exclusion. You always invited everyone to your table. Invite me to your table. Invite my friends in Essence Tribe to your table. And bring to your table those who have been hurt, who struggle to recover their own innocence that has been hurt so deeply. And bring the ignorant who are part of the cause as well. Bring them to the table as well. And let us understand what you knew so well and what Kabir put in his poem. When God said, all are forgiven. Moreover, dears, none have been guilty. The light of Christ has come into the world. The light of Christ has come into the world. I recognize that this session has been a little bit different. For most of the mystics in their writings, the reflection was based on their experience of the divine. And I took this session into an experience of the divine in our own relationship to Jesus. But there is an opportunity there to inquire, what was Jesus's experience with the uncreated when he was in form? Perhaps another time. I invite you to open your eyes